Hello and welcome back to Explain USA. The relationship between the United States and Iran is, well, it's on a knife's edge. But you know, this isn't just a simple two-player game. There's a third, very powerful force in the mix, and they're pursuing their own agenda, pushing this entire region towards a conflict that might just be impossible to contain. So today, let's break down this strategic dead end.
The United States has backed itself into a strategic dead end. Wow. That assessment from war studies expert Samir Pori isn't just a soundbite, it's a diagnosis. The idea that a global superpower has somehow maneuvered itself into a corner with no easy way out. In this explainer, we're going to explore exactly how they got here and what it means for all of us. All right, here's our roadmap. First, we're going to define what this strategic dead end really is. Then, we'll try to untangle the incredibly conflicting signals coming out of Washington that are just fueling all the chaos. After that, we'll look at Iran's powerful leverage and, this is crucial, uncover the parallel war being waged by Israel. And finally, we'll connect all these dots to see the pretty hazardous future they're all pointing towards.
So what does a strategic dead end actually look like on the ground? Well, it begins with this quiet, sobering admission inside Washington. That grand old goal of regime change in Iran, it's off the table. It's just not happening. And when your number one objective completely fails, you're forced to scramble for a new strategy. And that's usually when things get really dangerous.
You see, this isn't just about changing your goals, it's about losing your grip. The US is fundamentally losing control of the situation. Experts argue this creates a power vacuum, and as we know, geopolitics abhors a vacuum. Other global powers are already rushing in to fill that space.
And here's the proof, right here. On one side, the US can't even convince its oldest allies to join a basic security mission in the Strait of Hormuz. And on the other side, you've got rivals like China and Pakistan confidently stepping up and proposing their own regional plans. This is a huge signal that the world is starting to route around Washington, not through it.
Now, this erosion of US power is being sped up by a problem coming from inside the house: conflicting signals. In a crisis like this, clarity is absolutely crucial. But right now, nobody, not allies, not even Iran, is sure what the United States actually wants. Mostly because Washington itself can't seem to agree. I mean, just look at this strategic whiplash. The White House is talking about a quick end to the war, saying no deal is even needed. And on the very same day, the Pentagon keeps the option of a full-scale ground invasion on the table. This isn't just bad communication, folks. It's a recipe for miscalculation. And in a military standoff, miscalculation gets a lot of people killed.
And the rhetoric is becoming dangerously real. As analyst Mohammed Al-Masri points out, when a US president threatens to bomb Iran into the Stone Ages, it's not just hyperbole anymore. It echoes the exact kind of devastating air campaigns that America's allies have already waged in the region. This makes the threat feel a lot less like a bluff and a whole lot more like a promise.
Okay, let's flip this around and look at it from Iran's perspective. All this chaos in Washington, it actually strengthens Tehran's hand. Because despite suffering immense damage, Iran holds two cards that you just can't bomb away. One is time, and the other is geography.
The first and most critical piece of leverage is that geography. Iran continues to exert control over the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, this narrow waterway is basically the jugular vein of the global oil supply. Control over that gives Iran a massive tool to disrupt the entire world economy.
So here's a fascinating and frankly troubling scenario that analysts are kicking around. What if Iran doesn't close the strait, but instead weaponizes it financially? Imagine a situation where Iran says, sure, your ships can pass, but only if you pay us a hefty toll. What does the free world do then? And some experts suggest a pretty humiliating possibility. The US might have to just live with it. They call this a disastrous outcome because it would trap America's allies, major shipping nations like Japan and Germany, in an impossible choice. Do you defy Washington sanctions or do you pay a toll to Tehran?
Iran's other major leverage is the complete and total breakdown of trust. And this isn't just about the US pulling out of the nuclear deal back in 2018. Analysts point to this whole pattern of behavior that makes any future negotiations seem, well, pointless. After a history of talks being blown up by attacks, why would Iran ever believe a new deal would be honored? This deep, deep mistrust gives them the ultimate leverage to just say no. This brings us to the third major player in this whole crisis, Israel. And the crucial point to understand here is this: Israel is fighting a parallel war, but it's not necessarily the same war.
Its goals and its timelines are distinct from those of the United States. So analysts are defining two separate wars with two separate targets. While the U.S. Epic Fury operation is aimed at the regime in Tehran, Israel's Lion's Roar is aimed squarely at Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Yes, they're related, but their end goals are critically different.
And this is why it is so critical to understand. Even if the US decides to end its campaign against Iran tomorrow, there's absolutely no guarantee that Israel will stop its operations. The war in Lebanon could just keep escalating, completely independent of whatever Washington decides to do.
Some analysts argue that Israel's actions aren't just defensive. They see them as part of a long-term strategic vision that some people call the Greater Israel Project. This idea involves expanding Israeli control by taking over much of Gaza, aggressively building out settlements in the West Bank, and seizing a buffer zone in southern Lebanon. This agenda, it has its own momentum, completely separate from any U.S. strategy. So let's bring all these threads together. You've got a U.S. administration stuck at a strategic dead end, sending out wildly conflicting signals. You have an empowered Iran with a ton of leverage and absolutely no reason to trust negotiations. And you have an Israeli government pursuing its own separate and ambitious military project. This combination is creating a uniquely perilous moment.
And that brings us to a final, pretty chilling warning from Samir Puri. He argues that when a superpower runs out of clever options, it often resorts to its bluntest instrument, just overwhelming military force. The fear is that the coming weeks could see a massive escalation of force from the air, simply because Washington feels like it has no other cards left to play.
Every path forward seems blocked. Every single move risks escalation. With the major powers locked in like this and trust completely gone, we are left with a deeply unsettling question. Is a wider, more devastating conflict no longer just a possibility, but an inevitability?
If you like informative videos, so you can subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.